Hi Noah. I wanted to go over this question, and if you want to send me corrections, you can. So you have this triangle with these three vertices. So if it were me, I would write these coordinates down on my piece of paper. And what these questions are asking us is to take these 3 points and rotate them 90 degrees clockwise, 90 degrees counterclockwise, and 180 degrees. So we're going to use this rule here, these rules in the table. So it's important to know that these original points are just x, y. So I'm just going to label them. And to rotate it 90 degrees clockwise, we're looking at this rule right here. It's saying whatever was x, y, we're going to switch the x and y, so now it's y, x, and then we're going to do the opposite sign of x. So if it was positive, it now becomes negative. So switch the y and x and change the sign of that original x. So for example, the first one, I'm going to switch the y and x. So now it's 0, -7. So I would do that as the first step. And then I would say, oh, and that x that was -7, I now want it to be +7. Okay, so switch the y and x, and then change that original x to a positive. So let me do one more here. Switch the y and x, so now it's 4, -3. But that original x, that -3, now becomes +3. So why don't you try the third one? Now for part B, it says to change these 3 points using this rule right here. So our x, y, again, is changed. So we switch the y and x, but the original y is the opposite sign. So I'm just going to do one of them this time. Let's look at the third one. So I'm going to change the x and y. So this now becomes -1 and 5. But the original y, that -1, becomes a +1. So it would be 1, 5 instead. Okay? So why don't you do that same thing to both of these? Change the x and y, and then that original y becomes the opposite sign. And then lastly, we're going to rotate these 180 degrees for part C. So we're going to use this rule right here. So here, we're not changing the x and y. It's still x, y, but we're doing the opposite sign of both of them. So let me show you one of those, and then you can do the other two. So for this one, I'm going to write my original x, y's, but now I need to change the sign. So that -3 now becomes +3, and the +4 becomes -4. And that's it. So leave the x and y's where they are, just change the sign. Positive becomes negative, negative becomes positive. And there's one other that you missed that you can send me your correction for. So here it says this rectangle is rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise around the origin. What coordinates of the vertices, what are the coordinates of the vertices of the rotated angle? I just noticed I put the wrong rule up here. Hold on. So for a question like this, you want to make sure that you are looking to see what you're supposed to do, 90 degrees counterclockwise, and then look to the table I have in our notes to find that rule and write that down. So for this one, we have to come up with the coordinates of each of the points. So like this one right here, point A, that is over 0 up 2. This one here, point D, is over 3 up 0. This one here, point C, is over from the origin. We're going over 7 up 6. So C would be over 7 up 6. What is the coordinates? What are the coordinates for point B? Why don't you come up with those on your own? And then for each of these, you want to apply this rule. So again, this is our X and our Y. And what the rule is saying is the X and Y change spots, and the Y is the opposite sign. So we need to change the spots. So if we look at this one right here, 7, 6, now becomes 6, 7. And then my original Y, 6, was positive. Now I'm going to change it to a negative. Change the sign of the original Y. So why don't you figure out what point B is and then apply the rule to these remaining points.